Jonathan Chick back with you with another episode of Shtisel Man, and we are focusing on Season 3, Episode 5. First of all, happy Hanukkah to everybody. And in this episode, there's a lot going on. Certainly, the one thing that many people talk about in this episode is the very cute inside joke of sort of the Lippe Weiss recruiting non-religious actors to play Haredim, and meanwhile he himself is a non-religious actor playing a Haredi. So it's a window within a window and a very cute sort of like, sort of like inside joke type of thing from the writers. But the main thing I want to focus on this episode is really the continuing growth and drama of the relationship between Lippe and Giti. Of course, there's the other major points of going on with the two Shiras and their son in terms of engagements, and we'll talk about that too. So, as far as what we're seeing is that Giti and Giti catches Lippe, sort of crying out to God, saying, "Why won't my wife finally appreciate what I have to offer?" Specifically, earlier in the episode, he has this whole idea of being extras on on this sort of show being filmed about Haredim within the show of Shtisel, and Giti just sort of completely quashes his dreams and says all these fantasies, and I just want a normal man, etc., etc. Well, when you marry someone like a Lippe Weiss, you get a lot of hot and cold. You get things like the Argentina thing, and then you also get things like some really incredible ideas and some real sensitivities and some real, wonderful personality traits. Just an average normal guy, in the end of the day, Giti would not be happy with. So Giti's, when you choose a man like a Lippe Weiss who has those sort of, ups and downs, you're getting what you pay for. But if you give the man some leeway for his dreams, I think you can find some payback. We'll see more at the end of the series how it all lands. Of course, we're still hoping for Shtisel 4. I think Zohar Strauss, along with Netta Riskin, but want to have season 4 to continue their relationship. But for now, I want to focus on. So that's the relationship between Giti and Lippe. Giti and Lippe. And in the middle of the episode, this other woman comes into the restaurant who's been struggling with her own marriage and says she finally got a divorce. And, she says, to Giti, I can help you if you need any help with your situation. And Giti's mortified because divorce is not on her mind at all. So let's talk about, first of all, the divorce aspect. Now, in Judaism, divorce is actually, when appropriate and when it's called for, is actually a mitzvah, is actually a positive commandment. If a man and a wife are struggling and the marriage is not working, the Torah does command that a proper get, which is G-E-T, which is a divorce writ, be written and composed so that the situation can be ameliorated. Now, this is in contradiction to many, again, urban legends about Judaism that divorce is either not permitted or it's frowned upon. Now, there's certainly a stigma to it, and there's certainly, it's certainly not something that you want to run to. But when appropriate, it is a actual gift, if you will, from God, as opposed to other religions which sort of say that divorce really can't happen, and et cetera, et cetera. We all know what happened with Henry VIII and, the movements back in history regarding divorce and whatnot, and remarriage. So it's a contentious issue, but in Judaism, it's pretty clear. If the marriage isn't working, again, one shouldn't be capricious and just sort of like leave a marriage for no reason. But if people both gave the honest try and really worked on it, divorce is the viable option, and not only is it viable, it is actually proscribed. So, but that gives tremendous fear to Giti, and she doesn't really want to go there. And there's no question that in the Orthodox, certainly the Haredi world, there's tremendous stigma. Even in the modern Orthodox world, there's still a lot of stigma around divorce. And even though the numbers they're not the same as sort of the world population, over 50%, probably in the 60%. It's not there, but it's still probably in the 20%, maybe even more range. I don't know the specific numbers, but it's there, and it is significant. And so we should recognize that divorce is definitely a viable and an appropriate option when needed. There is a concept that of breaking engagements as well. Now we go back to the story with Shira, the two Shiras and Yasala, and Yasala is very mixed up about which Shira he wants to be with, and clearly he wants to be with the Shira that he first met by accident. So he says to his mother Giti that he wants to call it off. And Giti is furious at that, about breaking it off, and etc., etc. Well, what's the story about breaking engagements? Well, breaking engagements, there is absolutely no halachic, meaning legal, issue with whatsoever, because the reality is that nowadays, and in fact, since really the last certainly hundreds of years, in Orthodox Judaism, and there is no halachic, meaning legal engagement that takes place. Back in the Talmudic age and that time, there was a concept of being engaged halachically, legally, and then being married legally. Nowadays, the engagement and the actual wedding, which are two different stages, both take place at the Jewish wedding. So the first blessings under the chuppah, under the marriage canopy, we are regarding the engagement process, and then the blessings that follow the reading of the ketubah, which is the marriage document, are the actual marriage blessings. So two different things happen at a authentic Jewish wedding ceremony. The engagement legally and the marriage legally both take place. But in the case of the Haredim, or even the most extreme, very, very few actually do a legal engagement nowadays. In fact, it's almost not heard of. And in this case as well, with Yasel and Shira, they did get engaged, but there was no actual legal situation. Whereas back in the times of the Talmud, if a couple got engaged legally, they would actually need a form of divorce to get out of the engagement. Nowadays, if a couple in any Orthodox circle is engaged, they simply just have to just call it off. That's all they have to do. So clearly, obviously, it's a lot easier to break an engagement than get divorced, and that's really what Yesela wants to do. But even still, breaking engagement also has stigma, and also has, it's certainly not something that people want to run to do. But the lasting effects of breaking engagements are not that strong, and therefore it is done a lot more than we might realize. I know of many, many people who've gotten broken engagements and are living happily married lives. I know many, many people who've gotten divorced and are living happy second marriages. So all these things are parts and fabrics of the what I feel is the very sensible Jewish and Torah approach to dating and marriage. That these are things that, although we may not want to talk about and find them to be sometimes very difficult to deal with, and they are difficult to deal with, but the Jewish approach does give every couple a ability to appropriately and legally get a divorce when necessary. Back to Giti and Lippe, we'll see as the episodes come to a climax in season 3 where their relationship goes. But as you see from the end of the episode, you see that Giti does find some mercy and compassion for Lippe and recognizes that she has been somewhat quashing him and helps him in his finding these various actors to play the Haredim, and is supporting him on his pursuit. So we see a, 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 perhaps a healing of the wounds between Giti and Lippe. more to come next episode, and hope you enjoy. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll be back with more Shtisel Man. Have a great Hanukkah.